The Bitcoin Group, the American original. For over the last 10 seconds, the sharpest Satoshis, the best Bitcoins, the hardest cryptocurrency talk. We'd like to welcome our panelists, Justin Newton from Netkey.
Hey everybody, nice to see you today.
Dan Eve, the Crypto Raptor.
Let's go, Bitcoin.
Martine Wismayer from General Bytes.
Hello, citizens of the world.
Josh Shigala from the Standard.io.
Cheerio, old boy.
And I'm Thomas Hunt from the World Crypto Network. Moving on to Issue 1. Issue 1, Bitcoin and other cryptos plunge as fears over a new COVID variant shakes traditional markets. The price of Bitcoin was down about 10%. 7.4% over the last day, Bitcoin down 6%, and Ethereum fell 7.8%. Most stocks are down as the world is currently afraid of a potential new, heavily mutated COVID variant. The so-called new variant has been discovered in South America, South Africa, and now Israel and Belgium. The variant appears to deliver a large viral load similar to the Delta variant, meaning that it spreads very well. And unfortunately, the variant appears to have developed new spike proteins, which could invalidate the effects of the vaccine. Remember the vaccine, most of them were trained to identify spike proteins. If the spike protein is substantially different, it is possible, we do not have full information yet, that the virus could overwhelm even vaccinated individuals. Justin Newton, the market is down, Bitcoin is crashing, the world is on fire. How will this affect Bitcoin?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think if we look at what happened with the last pieces of the pandemic, right, what ended up occurring was governments provided quite a bit of financial relief into their economies in various means. And that led to the printing of quite a bit of money all across the globe by various governments. Generally, when that occurs, that's good for Bitcoin. Because Bitcoin is a counter to inflationary assets like US dollar or others when there's printing going on. So, I while personally I would prefer that there not be new scary variants of COVID and that we could get back to normal. I think that this will probably, once people settle in a little bit and we think about what the effects might really be, if there are impacts, it'll probably be good for Bitcoin.
That's a good point. And a lot of people in the traditional markets are just saying that we just don't have enough information on this yet. A lot of people made their choices early. They were afraid. They got out of the market. That could be the wrong move if some of this information about the new variant is not as bad as initially reported. Dan Eve, your thoughts on the market crash and the potential new variant?
Well, there's a new variant of opinions on inflation going around, and lots of people seem to think it's a good thing for some obscure reason. But obviously, inflation is not a good thing. And whilst COVID's pretty close to home right now because my son's got it, so I'm in the same house as my little 2-year-old has got COVID, and I'm waiting for my PCR test. Otherwise, I'd be with Ben and everyone else at CoinFest right now. Also, broadcasting live. But yeah, I don't know. It's easy to kind of attribute some movements in the market from relating to COVID specifically, for example. If another kind of massive lockdown happens, there's probably going to be more stimulus, more checks, and then more people buying Bitcoin. So overall, it's just going to end up in another pump. So I think ultimately, whilst we can kind of say Bitcoin might be following the stock market, which is everything's kind of down right now. Ultimately, Bitcoin is going to completely decouple itself from all markets, whilst people slowly come to realize that inflation is bad and Bitcoin is the best inflation against best hedge against inflation because of the fact that it's the hardest money. It's rock solid money.
Martine Wismayer.
It's of course it's scary, and the markets respond. There's primarily airlines that went down. The rest of the market went down too. But I guess we'll see the home working stocks like, Zoom will go up again. And for Bitcoin, back in that last year when the market tanked, everything went down. Bitcoin went down too. But Bitcoin was one of the first to recover once people realized that, the honey badger doesn't care. And Bitcoin will rebound, and especially if the money printing starts again. Well, correction, it never stopped. They kept printing, at least in Europe. They kept printing more euros. So they just left, and they left the printer on. So I'm really curious what they're going to do now. So I think if people are worried, they're buying real estate and stuff to like counter the inflation. But I think once they realize that Bitcoin is really not affected by the new virus, where it remains to be seen what the effects are, because at this point we just don't know, that people will get back into Bitcoin. I think this is just definitely going to happen. I'm not too worried about Bitcoin. I'm more worried about this crazy new virus, to be honest.
There's an infinite amount of cash at the Federal Reserve. Josh Sigala, your thoughts?
Oh no, not my thoughts on this subject. Jesus, what have you opened? This is a can of worms. The only new variant is called communism, and it's sweeping the globe. No, really, I mean, the thing that I'm not scared of this new variants generally become weaker and weaker. That's just how virology works. It's not like it might become more viral, but it generally doesn't hurt its victims as much. And you know what? Like, honestly, whether you call it communism, whatever, but we're heading towards a really, really dangerous part in society. Whether you like this, the way that the government's dealing with this or not, where I think we can all agree that having everybody in a global surveillance state probably isn't the future that you want your grandchildren to grow up in. I don't know about you. It sort of rubs me the wrong way. So yeah, I don't know whether it's Bitcoin, it won't be effective. Bitcoin is like the fainting goat of money, and the honey badger, of course, but it sort of just tips over and then gets back up. It doesn't matter. It's ridiculous. This whole thing, I'm so over it. People, get your vitamin D, get some exercise, lose some weight, join the herd. Just turn off your televisions. Really, that's the end of that.
Josh does make a good point. We don't know about the payload of this virus. It is possible that the death count will be smaller. Viruses do get weaker in parts, but this one got stronger in other parts. Variants come and go. Ben Ark joining us from Coinbase, from LN Bit. How's it going, Ben?
Coinfest. I'm sorry for the music is pretty loud, but there's a bit of a party vibe going on here, which is quite nice. It's nice to see, Bitcoin is in the flesh again. Particularly when we could talk about these new variants and another wave and future lockdowns and all that sort of stuff. But I mean, lockdowns and COVID, they were good for Bitcoin. Arguably, lots of people spending time on the internet and feeling that they had civil liberties encroached and wanting more sort of personal freedom, and then they look towards liberating technologies such as Bitcoin. And they just spend more time on the computer and become more digitally native, and that's ultimately good for Bitcoin. So yes, there's a knock in the Bitcoin price temporarily, but ultimately all this horrible stuff is, and us all being forced to stay at home and stay on our computers more is ultimately good for Bitcoin. As it was, we've suddenly been propelled, 5 years into the future to what we thought where we would be, back in 2019 when all the COVID stuff kicked off. So yeah, it's ultimately good for Bitcoin, but temporarily, obviously with the markets and everything else crashing, people just want to find some stability and something which is more stable, and Bitcoin isn't currently very stable. But it's temporary speculation and traders which caused that price shift. It's the bedrock of hodlers continues to grow strong, and Bitcoin becomes more stable over time. But yeah, it's great to temporarily, while we're able to have a little bit of freedom to be able to meet other Bitcoiners, hang out, have a few beers and things, and very lucky to be here. It's a shame not here too, Thomas.
Oh, it would be great. It was unfortunately timed right up against American Thanksgiving and then all the virus stuff happening. But I'm going to say something horribly political here. So everyone put on your long-term thinking caps, the kind you use to read history textbooks. And let's just think about the possibilities that Joe Biden had here, President Joe Biden. I think that Biden acted in the interest of the American people. Biden acted as the American president when he kept the extra doses of the vaccines. It seemed pretty clear to me at the beginning that the people who didn't want to take the vaccine didn't care about information and wouldn't take the vaccine. So it's unfortunate if you look at just a supply issue that we kept so many extra doses, so many rotten and expiring doses here in the United States and the developed countries, and didn't perhaps share them at a greater rate with the developing world. Viruses like this are truly a global problem. And as we've seen, this variant developed in South Africa first, quickly got to Israel, is in Belgium, and it's as good as everywhere else now, especially with the EU currently hanging on to their lack of travel restrictions. They want to be open to all their member states. They want to be open to business. Unfortunately, that's exactly what the virus wants to spread to all member states. So if Biden had done the other thing, if he had said, okay, you Americans don't want to take the vaccine, instead of having thousands of doses ready at every, medical store, every pharmacy near you, going bad every day, we're going to take those doses and give them for free to the developing world. Pfizer, Moderna, J&J also could have done this. They also have the ability to make extra doses, to open source the formula. There's a lot that they could have done, and it really comes down to what Jesus said in the Bible: give to me that which you would give to the least among us. And it seems like, at least right now, we didn't help these people. They spread the virus around, created new variants, and I hope it's not true. I hope that the variant goes away, and I hope everything's fine. The current information I have doesn't look good. But yes, it does look like that lack of compassion and care for other people may have doomed us all, or at least doomed quite a few of us as the new variant of the virus spreads. So it takes a lot to look at that. Clearly, I think you can see arguments for both sides. You could say the American president, as American CEO, should protect the American people. But then there's that butterfly problem where the American people also live in the world, and helping the people of the world would have helped the American people. Leaving the people of the world out there to spread virus doesn't look like it's helping us. Moving on to the exit question, the price of Bitcoin this time next week, higher or lower, Justin Newton?
I think higher next week.
Dan, Eve.
Yeah, we're going to see like a big leg up, I think, after this big dump. I'm up.
Martine Wismayer.
Absolutely, we're going up again. This is the same thing that happened a year ago when the first COVID scare news hit the markets. People will realize it's business as usual for Bitcoin, and price will go up again.
People were saying on Twitter that a year ago, when Barry Silbert was worrying about the price of Bitcoin, actually, it should have been when you were buying. Bitcoin was around $5,800, which sounds like a steal today. And everyone was worried about the COVID and this and that. And they were trying to look for a safe place for their cash. They weren't looking for a risky place, but if they'd taken the risk on Bitcoin, they would have done all right. Josh Shigala, higher or lower?
I'm getting those corn chips ready because I'm dipping. I'm dipping all the way. Yummy.
He's buying that dip. Ben Ark.
Yeah, hi, it's temporary. Just temporary, just traders doing what they do, temporary.
Oh, but it's so fun. You get to go doom. And also, everyone, for note, if you're keeping track, this did break every single trading model. The Plan B stock to flow model did not include a brand new variant of the Delta virus, or the COVID virus, developed during our Thanksgiving break. It wasn't on anybody's charts, and it affected the price all the same. Isn't that strange? That's strange how that keeps happening. You make a perfect model, and you just can't include all variants and variations. Moving on to issue 2. El Salvador plans to create a Bitcoin city and raise $1 billion Buy a Bitcoin bond. The new city is near a volcano, will be funded with cryptocurrency, has been described as a James Bond type plan with zero taxes, zero infrastructure, and much, much more. Meanwhile, the president of El Salvador, Nayib Bukele, has outed 5 or 6 of the Supreme Court magistrates, removing them from the constitutional chamber, as well as the attorney general, replacing them with party loyalists. Surely everything will be fine with these brand new Bitcoin bonds. Remember, not your keys, not your coins, and this Bitcoin city. No honeypot there. You can trust it. You'll be safe. Dan Eve, your thoughts on exciting actions in El Salvador?
Well, I love the idea of obviously, using a volcano and geothermal activity to mine Bitcoin. It's obviously really positive when it comes to like using renewables rather than using dirty coal. But also, obviously, they don't want to make it. I'm sure they're thinking of this, but not too close to the volcano, right? Because Bitcoin City will become Pompeii. Drum roll, please. Sorry, but yeah. So I think they've teamed up with Blockstream as well, right, to help fund that, to raise the $1 billion, and they're going to do bonds with some tidy payouts. So I think it sounds quite positive. It'd be interesting to see if it's made one of these sustainable cities, and obviously it's going to be pretty high tech. I'm pretty sure I read about the tax benefits there as well. It's like 0% tax on Bitcoin capital gains, and so that's going to probably bring a lot of money to the country. So I think it kind of sounds like quite a cool thing, right? And a lot of that money can flow back into the infrastructure, into the rest of the country. So although there may be like calls of a coup d'etat and everything else that's happened along the way, which it's just always not all that's fantastic, but ultimately it seems long term this Bitcoin city might have some really good effects on the rest of the country. And although there's been protests about the recent legislation, that could be turned around by the inflows of money.
It's not a coup, it's a coupe. It's a small car. Martin Wismar, your thoughts on El Salvador?
Well, on Bitcoin City, building a city next to a volcano, what could possibly go wrong? I mean, we have a volcano currently erupting, or has been erupting for the past, 5 months or so. In La Palma, gives some really nice pictures, and it's perfect for Bitcoin mining. I totally agree. But I wouldn't want to live next to a volcano. No fucking way. Oh, sorry, can I say this on YouTube? No way. No way. I'm not living there. But you have to hand it to them. They're making it happen. So that's like, at least they got the guts to just do it. So very brave for people living next to the volcano. I hope they will be able to monitor all those miners. But I would probably have moved a little bit further away from the volcano and just leave noisy miners next to the volcano. Yeah.
If life gives you lemons, make lemonade. If life gives you volcanoes, geothermic Bitcoin miners.
It's also politics. I think politics are for puppets. So I don't do any politics myself. So I can't really comment on any politics on El Salvador or this. I don't even follow it. I just find it totally not interested. I'm really just Bitcoin, really.
Hey, Martin, just as a heads up, basically all of El Salvador is next to a volcano.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, it's in a bunch of volcanoes. They're all over the area. So basically anywhere you are in El Salvador, you're next to a volcano.
Oh, then we're doomed.
You at least have the advantage of also being next to the beach.
Well, you know the 3 laws of real estate: location, location, location. That sounds like a rough one, though. Josh Shigala, your thoughts on El Salvador?
Yeah, actually, my brother lives on Palma, and his girlfriend's finca just got flattened by a lava tongue, literally just burnt up. But I think the volcanoes, I don't know how dead they are over there. I don't know. I mean, for them to mine Bitcoin, they can't be too dead, but not too alive. You got to find that middle ground. But yeah, look, it's a really interesting, the thing about governments and being a Bitcoiner is you kind of go like this a little bit, the early ones anyway, I don't know, the newer ones are a little bit different, but the thing about governments is if you have a government which reserve currencies in Bitcoin, it makes it very scary because who controls those keys? And can they have, then they can't really have a coup, especially if it's like a very strong sort of mafia style government. Not saying that that's what's happening in El Salvador, I'm just saying generally, if it's then they can't then be, taken down because they'll just take the private keys with. What I would like to see is some sort of, like if every citizen had a key to a multi-sig or something crazy like that, and 51% had to sign it to move the funds. Something like that would be interesting because
2.5 million plus one of 5 million.
Yeah, well, we've got Schnorr
the most expensive transaction.
Well, we've got we've got Taproot now. So.
That's awesome. I love that.
But I don't know. I mean, maybe it doesn't have to be on chain. I don't know, but it would be really good because this is the biggest issue: is how do governments keep that safe? Governments. I also don't understand how they do it with nuclear codes. So there must be a way, but it's pretty scary with more sort of centralized power structures and a whole lot of funds that are bearer-based assets. It's wacky, but volcanoes. I think I'd love, for me, the ultimate power source is, I don't even think there's a problem with power. Like, I mean, literally the core of the earth is like tiny compared to the ball of lava we're sitting on. You just need to drill. Aussies are good at drilling. You know what I mean? They love to drill holes, and surely you can just dig a little bit deeper and pour some water down that thing. Then you get some steam back up. I don't see the big deal. Let's do it. Let's mine some Bitcoin with geothermal.
The great thing about this El Salvador situation is if it is a honeypot and an exit scam, then we're finally going to get an answer to that age-old question, how many Bitcoins will fit in a suitcase? It's going to be a lot, I think. And of course, remember what Ralph Nader said about government? The lesson of government is if you're not turned on to government, government will turn on you. Ben Ark, your thoughts about El Salvador?
Well, I mean, I just spent a week there for adopting Bitcoin, and it was very enlightening. A lot of the initial, LN Strike, Jack Mallers he announced that El Salvador will be accepting Bitcoin along with Bukele at Miami, and that was news to the citizens of El Salvador because it was mandated to them. It wasn't a democratic vote or anything. They were told they were now going to accept Bitcoin, and they heard along with all of us Bitcoiners as well. We all got excited about it. And I was kind of forgiving of the Bukele guy because I heard him in interviews, and he's had some genuine insight I've not heard before, such as the idea that in the US, for example, when they mint USD, that they're able to use it for fiscal stimulus, but they end up with the toilet paper down in Central America. And I thought that was a genuine insight, which I'd not heard before anyone say. So I think, okay, this guy's a deep guy. The problem is you have a good dictator who mandates something like Bitcoin, and we all wave our little Bitcoin flags. And then they become egocentric and power corrupts, and they have these crazy, wild ideas about making cities into volcanoes. San Salvador is a beautiful city. It's got a lot of infrastructure, big roads, some really nice buildings in uptown San Salvador. And with a little bit of work, it could be a successful modern city and a massive investment opportunity. While I was there, I was thinking, crikey, like after Bitcoin, I think this is probably one of the best places to invest your money because it seems like all these companies, and I spoke to a lot of companies while I was there, who, big companies, Bitcoin companies who operate in the US, who were talking directly to me saying, we're interested in setting up in El Salvador. And this is before the Bitcoin City announcement. And then this Bitcoin City announcement thing happens. And I'm thinking, you've got all this money pouring into El Salvador. Really, should I direct it at fixing San Salvador and making it a modern city? That would be great. And it would be a great investment opportunity. Loads of companies would enjoy that space. It's beautiful country, and the city itself is wonderful. But this concept of this Bitcoin city, it leans towards the egocentric dictator who's got too much power and thinks that he can create. This is what they do. This is what people with ultimate power do. They want to build these wonderful, magnificent utopian cities and disregard all the other cities which exist. And then what do you have? You have like two tiers of society. You have this like utopia volcano city full of rich Bitcoin gringos, and then you have what San Salvador is just becomes more of a shithole. Like it has the potential to become a wonderful city. Like invest that money there. If you've got this $1 billion Bitcoin bond, which Blockstream are working on, $500 million of worth are going to be Bitcoin locked in for 5 years. That's a hell of a lot of money. We all know it's going to be a hell of a lot of money in 5 years' time. Honestly, that city could be a leading city in the whole of the Americas, not just Central and South America, but it's North America too. So that's where the money should be focused. The worry is, Bukele eroding all those checks on power, attacking free press. I've spoken to El Salvadorians on locals, and they're generally concerned about this guy's eroding the sort of democratic process within El Salvador. And then Bitcoiners will say, well, how democratic are our societies, blah, blah, blah. And they make all these excuses up for Bukele. And actually, just because, he's waving our Bitcoin flag doesn't mean we should support the dude in everything he does. Yes, the adopting of Bitcoin is cool. It was done in a way which was undemocratic and just mandated, and that was bad. And actually, people are interested in Bitcoin within El Salvador. And there are, genuine investment opportunities for El Salvador as a country. But this Bitcoin city concept, when I heard about it, it just triggered, it just doesn't seem to me like the correct direction in which that country should be heading. And then, as well as that, while I was there, considering like Jack Mallers, he was one of the ones who was involved in kind of helping Bukele and El Salvador get on the world stage for accepting Bitcoin. When you go to El Salvador, everyone's using Chivo Wallet, and Chivo Wallet is almost like it's a state-mandated Bitcoin wallet, which is absolutely terrible and doesn't work properly and gives people a terrible experience. Well, Chivo is made by a company called Athena, and Bukele's brother is a majority shareholder in the company Athena. Now, this is information which struggles to get out because Bukele has actively suppressed the free press. But it's very corrupt. It's exactly as you would imagine state implementing Bitcoin. Some people say it's a necessary evil. Maybe you need a wild-eyed Bitcoiner dictator to mandate Bitcoin, and then it will bleed into other countries like Guatemala or wherever else in Central America, and then Bitcoin will just slowly start to grow organically in those countries. But the Athena situation, monopolizing or trying to monopolize the way in which Bitcoin is rolled out in El Salvador is very worrying. What was encouraging was you go into a shop and you try and pay for something, and then they try and use the Chivo wallet. It would fail miserably, and they would go on their phones and they'd switch to another wallet and then use that instead. So the better solutions are kind of rising to the surface. But the relationship Bukele's brother has with Athena the company, and the amount of money in which they have, I've seen their offices. They've got some of the swankiest offices in uptown San Salvador. Yeah, it's. I think I hear that traditionally El Salvador has always been run by a collection of these big families, and Bukele's part of one of those big families. And it's monopoly. It's not a free market of Bitcoin solutions out there. Although some of those solutions are kind of coming to the forefront organically. But this idea of this Bitcoin city thing, it's invest that money in San Salvador. It would be wonderful for it. It's potentially an absolutely fantastic city. Don't build this egocentric Bond villain style volcano Bitcoin city. Just focus those funds on the areas of your country which need it.
I'd agree with Ben. I'd say that Bitcoiners need to choose their friends carefully. And just because El Salvador wants to be friends with us doesn't necessarily mean we should instantly drop all of our guards and give everything we have to El Salvador. Remember, as they say, you can pick your nose, you can pick your friends, but you can't pick your friend's nose. Also, as they said in Dick Tracy, the enemy of my enemy is my friend, but also sometimes the enemy of my enemy is my enemy. Josh, you have more on this? Good.
Well, the thing about dictatorships is the trains always run on time, and so it's just some of the trains go to Auschwitz. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Not saying that El Salvador has anything to do with that. I'm just at all. El Salvador, I really like the country. It looks great.
The problem is, like, even if you can have a saint as a dictator. They want the best will in the world for their country, but you give them all that power, and it corrupts. Power corrupts. This is why we have checks on power in stable democratic countries, to avoid as best we can, with the means we have.
Some dictatorships have done work though. Like, I'm not standing up for dictators. Some dictatorships work.
I mean, no, exactly. That's what I'm saying. You get a good person, they make good decisions. It's like any hierarchical institution. You have some great people at the top, and then they make great decisions, and it benefits everybody else. But more often, I mean, pretty much always throughout history, the power corrupts. They become paranoid and think that people are attacking their powers. They erode all the checks on power, and the general populace end up worse for it.
If you look at Dubai and a lot of these sort of emirate countries, they're all run by princes and
they have
oligarchs.
These like crazy egocentric ideas about making utopian cities.
Yeah, they're like, let's put a palm. Just make a palm. Let's make a palm. But sir, it'll erode. We have global warming. Yeah, build a palm.
And my hat's off to Josh as well, because I mean, while I was like forgiving of Bukele on the show, I was like, oh well, blah blah blah. Josh was like, no, he's a dictator.
It does seem like this is our Bitcoin palm. This is our Bitcoin island shaped like the world, and we have to see how it goes. Still not sure. Justin Newton, you were at the announcement for Bitcoin City. What was it like in El Salvador? Were the Bitcoiners excited? Were the El Salvadorians excited?
Sure. So I would say from my side, it was the strangest announcement of a tax incentive that I've ever seen in my life. If you look at really what the announcement was at its core, is they were announcing two things, right? They were announcing, one, the issuance of national debt, something that normally is the most exciting thing out there. I'm sure we all get up in the morning to look at like what countries are issuing debt so that we can like set our social schedules around it and figure out like, how we can build our weekends around like what Switzerland might be issuing, or, what's happening in Azerbaijan with respect to debt issuance, And the other thing that they announced basically was a tax incentive zone for companies or individuals to come work there. Another thing I know we generally set our social schedules around, what countries are launching a new tax-free zone for companies or places for people to come and build their things. It's normally something that gets like one sentence of press globally. If you look at what they've managed to do with the announcement, is they've managed to get a lot more interest behind it and a lot more momentum behind it than had they done or used any sort of traditional means or mechanisms. So, if you look today, El Salvador's debt, the last debt that they issued was at about a 13% interest rate, and this Bitcoin bond they're issuing at 6.5%. And so, for the people of El Salvador, assuming they're able to sell this bond out, this is a significant savings to them over the course of time, because they've tapped into goodwill inside of the crypto community or interest inside of the crypto community to follow into this or go into this. Similarly with the announcement of the tax incentive area, before they announced the Bitcoin law, or before they announced Bitcoin City as kind of the combination of the two, how many billion-dollar crypto companies were looking at opening up in El Salvador or putting offices there or hiring staff there? I would argue that number was approximately zero give or plus or minus the sampling error, right? And now what you see is, there was an event that was just down there with LA BitConf, and the major sponsors of it were companies like Binance and companies like FTX, and companies that otherwise wouldn't have been paying any attention to El Salvador really at all. And so what they've done is they've taken, traditional things that countries do all the time, issue debt, try and incentivize more foreign investment in their company or country, and they've driven orders of magnitude more interest in it because of the affiliation they've created around with Bitcoin and what's happening with that and what's going on there. And so, what I would say from that side is it's been very interesting to see how they've been able to tap into what they see as an emerging trend and an emerging narrative to try and drive growth and drive investment in their country. And, this is something, it wasn't the only thing that Singapore did, but it's one of the things that Singapore did during the internet era, and is one of the reasons that Singapore became a regional economic leader during and after that time. Because, before that, they'd been traditionally a shipping hub for a really long period of time. And they went to the next stage of like exporting information and knowledge workers to other people inside of the region. And so, if El Salvador is able to pull that off, and they're able to bring in companies and entrepreneurs and others into the country and invest dollars there, but more importantly, what they're doing is they're training Salvadorans how to be startup people so that they can export that knowledge into other countries that are in the region, as well as generate a startup economy inside of El Salvador. And, this is something that El Salvador is actually kind of ripe for at this moment. They actually just had right now, literally in the last few months, their first big tech exit in the country, where a company called Hugo, Hugo, sold to a German firm for about $150 million. This was basically the first big exit ever in El Salvador, and generated a lot of interest in Salvadorans in joining the tech economy, joining startups and doing things. And so that, combined with outside investment and outside expertise coming in from the crypto community, has the opportunity to create a lot of advantage and uplift people inside of El Salvador over a generation.
I definitely agree, Justin. It's a huge marketing win for Bukele. He didn't have that much, and now he has a partnership with Blockstream. It's an incredible up for the country. But his presentation style has I think it's drifted a bit from Jack Mahler's. It had a little Oprah, like, you get a car, had that kind of game show mentality.
I've definitely never seen DJs and fireworks at a financial announcement from a country before.
All that stuff was present, though, before the announcement of the Bitcoin City, wasn't it? Like, companies I'd spoken to were interested in investing in El Salvador. I personally was thinking San Salvador is a great place to invest in as a location, just because of all the stuff you're saying about it being attracting all this tech investment. This is before the Bitcoin City announcement. So how do you think, Justin, what were your reflections after the Bitcoin City announcement? Were you more positive about the idea of? Do you think it's more likely that people are going to want to invest in El Salvador? Do you think it's less likely? How do you think that announcement will be received sort of in the general investment community, this idea of this Bitcoin City?
So I think the two pieces of it, to me, that are the valuable pieces of it, right? The first is the tax incentive area, because, and I'm not like a lawyer or a financial planner or that kind of stuff, but when I look at it, it could be a really good place for companies, for example, to build out where they custody their crypto or custody their Bitcoin, to build entities that operate there, because the combination of you don't get taxed on gains on Bitcoin and other tax incentives may lead to things like that. I think the number of companies that will show up there having an area that has tax incentives in the way that they announced with Bitcoin City, I think is something that can be really valuable. I think that what they're doing with the bond issuance, assuming that it works well, it provides a really strong advantage to the country versus other fundraising means and mechanisms that they have available to them right now. The building of a physical Bitcoin city, I'll be honest, I'm not sure I really understand that piece of it yet, or how all of that piece works out, or frankly, whether that makes sense. But I also have probably spent less than 6 minutes thinking about it, to be honest with you. You know, I really focused kind of, to me, on those other two areas, which is where the real power was, which is around, you know, attracting high net worth individuals and companies with tax incentives, and then being able to access capital markets for debt at a much lower interest rate than they're getting from traditional markets.
Assuming they do raise the bond, and if it is $500 million locked in Bitcoin for 5 years, I think we're all agreeing that would be a lot of money. It really does kind of counter that argument presented by the IMF and the traditional money system, where they're like, El Salvador, you can't do this Bitcoin thing. You can't go on your own. You need us. You need this backup source of funding. But it seems like Blockstream, the Bitcoiners, may provide that for them and may really provide a strong backdrop, destroying this IMF type argument. What do you think, Ben?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it was kind of soured, like, you know, all that jubilance. And then I was, you know, trying to overlook all the Athena stuff. And it was all dampened by this Bitcoin City announcement. It just seemed like an egocentric, you know, announcement by someone with too much power.
There's also the argument that
I would make we want to not invest money in the country. Whereas before I was like, yeah, cool, you're gonna build up this country, you're gonna get all these tech companies to come into the country and flood into the country, and it's that's great. But then this announcement of the Bitcoin City thing, I was like, oh dear.
If you're working in crypto, I would argue the number one reason to invest in the country is it is the first country on the planet where 100% of the population has a crypto wallet. And so there's going to be economic and other things that are different about El Salvador than other locations. But if you want to learn about what an environment is like where everyone is facile with a crypto wallet and everyone has access to crypto assets, and what are the services that get developed when you start to saturate an environment like that, I would be at least building and doing some experimentation inside of El Salvador, because it's going to be a really, really, you know, potentially it's going to be a long time before there's a second country that has 100% penetration or 70% penetration or 80% penetration of crypto wallets. And so just the learning because of the density is going to be really valuable for anybody that's operating in the crypto space. So I think we're quickly, you know, going to see yield products show up down there. We're going to see lending products show up down there. But, you know, what are going to be the other projects or products that people use when everyone has crypto, right? So for, you know, one of the things, and you know, I would agree with you, there's been rough spots in the Chivo rollout and challenges. You know, when I was down at LA BitConf, one of the things that struck me from the presentation Athena gave was that, you know, there's like maybe 4 million people that have the Chivo wallet now. But really before that, there were only 1 million people in the country that had a bank account. So for 3 million people, at least 3 million people, the Chivo wallet was the first time in their life that they had a balance, right? They never had a balance anywhere in their life before other than their pocket. And so, you know, eventually they're going to start to think about what are the things that I can do with that balance. And there's not a robust financial ecosystem out there in El Salvador right now. And so there's a ton of open space for crypto companies to come in and to fill that void and to provide those financial services to the 70% of people that have never had a balance before, that don't have a bank account, that don't have a credit card, where the first time that they did a digital payment, it was with a crypto wallet. So they literally have more experience with that than they would in with a credit card.
I agree, but I mean, the Chivo wallet is, I mean, the default is the Chivo payment, and then you have to click through a whole bunch of menus in order to be able to get to an on-chain Bitcoin on-chain payment, and then another menu to be able to get to a Lightning payment. And then the general experience, people, it failed in the worst possible way. You go into a shop, you pay for something on Lightning, it clears on your phone, and then it doesn't show on the merchant's phone. And then you just think of how many people are going to walk away from that experience and say, well, I tried Bitcoin and it didn't work. Ultimately, it doesn't matter because they will have those conversations behind closed doors and say, well, you should use this wallet instead of this wallet. Don't use Chiba wallet, use this other wallet, and you won't have that experience. But I thought it was an incredibly poor implemented piece of software, state mandated piece of software. It didn't fill me with hope. The thing which did fill me with hope was people realizing that they should just use something else as opposed to the actual Chiba wallet itself. But I 100% agree. I 100% agree. Like I said to Christian Russo, the last night I was there, we were at this bar. It was on top of this rooftop, and I said, "Look, Christian. So at the first Lightning Hack Day in Berlin, in room 77, we were making. I bought the first glass of wine on Lightning, Bitcoin Lightning. I think I bought one of the first coffees, like from the bar, and then other people buying the first beers. We're doing all the first because this is the first bar in the world to accept Bitcoin over Lightning Network, extremely cutting edge. No one else was using this technology back then. This is the first Lightning Hack Day. And I say to Christian Russo, who was out back in Berlin, and I say to him, well, we're on this rooftop in San Salvador. I say, look, here's a bar which accepts Bitcoin. And then we turn around and this bar's overlooking the city of San Salvador. And I say, no, there's a fucking city which accepts Bitcoin. All the best things we've built are off the back of this little bar in Berlin accepting Bitcoin. Now think of all the amazing data we're going to get back from this whole city of people using Bitcoin. Absolutely fantastic. I agree with you completely. If you're going to set up a company which is doing Bitcoin payments, then obviously San Salvador is the best place in the world to do that, just because you've got all these people using the software, using it in the real world, not just sci-fi. Oh, wouldn't this be great if we use this here, use this there. You get all this real world feedback, which is where you actually get true innovation from. But no, Chivo Wallet was incredibly unimpressive, and then the whole Athena, Bukele's brother thing was. But yeah, good luck to him and the Bitcoin City thing. Hopefully that's a marketing gimmick, just to kind of get people riled up and keep the energy up. And Bukele will actually invest some of that money more wisely. But I agree with you. Despite that, the very fact that there's all these people using Bitcoin there will still attract a hell of a lot of investment into El Salvador.
Well, it's interesting that, of course, William Gibson predicted this like everything else in his books. He had South American data havens outside the U.S. laws. And while we've been critical of El Salvador, there is something to say about a good plan today is better than a perfect plan tomorrow. Maybe this isn't the ideal partner, but it's a partner that wants to use Bitcoin, and certainly we should let them use Bitcoin. We don't have any choice otherwise, right? I just want to give a shout out to everybody that's watching right now and invite you to give us a thumbs up and subscribe down below. It says there's 48 people watching, so I don't know how you found the show. We try not to share the link with anybody. We keep it on the down low, but you guys keep sharing that link. You keep pushing that thumbs up, and you're breaking through somehow all of our attempts to make sure that maybe it's because the only thing on the day after Thanksgiving, we're the only game in town. We also want you to check out the WCN Clips YouTube channel on YouTube. It's got 83 subscribers. You could be one of them. It's shorter versions of this show, so it's also great if you want to send it to a friend. If you're looking for some good titles and some good thumbnails, we've got it all on WCN Clips, so these are great to share with friends. Moving on to issue 3, Pokemon Go developers made a new game that lets you mine Bitcoin, earn Bitcoin. The game seems to be tied up with Fold, the Bitcoin discount company, and you can mine for Bitcoin in an augmented reality where you walk around the real world and there's blocks or something of Bitcoin, and you click on them, and I don't know, you get $1 or something. Martine Wishmare, what do you think about Bitcoin and games, especially the addition of Niantic, the major developer behind the worldwide hit Pokemon Go, where all the good people were walking in all the bad neighborhoods to find all the special Pokemon? Can we expect a repeat here, but this time with Bitcoin?
This app is not available in your country. That's what I got. So yeah.
Oh,
our global currency is all of a sudden geo-locked by the App Store. So I haven't been able to try any of it. I think it's nice. It's a good way to to get the people, I don't think you can get like dollars. It's probably Satoshis, but just keep running around and maybe like tie your phone to the dog or something when you walk your dog, so you have extra miles you walk. But I like the idea. I think gamification is great, especially for those wallets. I mean, Fold has been doing their cashback program for a while. I've been unable to try it because not available in your country, but maybe in time, maybe they will open it up to the rest of the world, but probably there will be another company just doing the exact same thing in Europe. So yeah, until then, I've been. There was a similar game like this, sort of AR type of game, not coinding. There have been several like walk around on a Google Map style thing, and then you get Satoshis and you can walk them. I think Ben even developed something like that not too long ago.
Boy.
Yeah, there's nothing Ben hasn't developed really. He's been like he's the crazy mad scientist of the World Crypto Network. He's been basically developing everything. That was one, but there were several others out there as well. One had like the camera on all the time, so you could see the AR style interface, and it was just throwing around shitcoins, which you could never cash. And eventually people got tired of it and they uninstalled the app. So that wasn't a very good one. There was, I think, CoinDing before that, and the guys were struggling with a business model, so eventually they ran out of Satoshi, so it ended. But it does look like Ninantech, they have some financial muscle behind it, and Fold definitely has a client base, and they've been rolling it into the same app. So it's probably going to be successful, and it's a good way for kids too. To get started with collecting some Satoshis, run around, visit those bad neighborhoods, because that's where the Satoshis are. They find out their iPhone is being stolen. So, but in general, yes, I do like the idea of gamification, Bitcoin, and just like, use your phone. It gets people excited, and I do see business opportunities here too. If you have a Bitcoin accepting business, and you can throw around some Satoshis around your front door, and maybe just a few near the front door, and the rest is inside the place, so you can get people in your bar or place. So that, yeah, absolutely cool. Yeah, I'm totally for it. I don't see any negative points here really, except the app is not available in your country. That was like a disappointment.
Well, it's too bad that Fold is not available in Martine's country, but they've done a great job with gamification from the very beginning of their app. They have this fantastic kind of Wheel of Fortune game you can play every day, and usually you win like 100 sats or something nominal. But just the idea of getting people to come back to your app every day and to hit that wheel is just such a great thing for interaction, and to get people to look at the new discount and pop up a message to them and all that. So they've just done a really good job starting in the beginning with their discount app and gamification. Josh Shigala, your thoughts of Bitcoin Go? Will you be soon searching for Satoshis in all the wrong places?
Yeah. Actually, I really love it. I remember Niantic brought out this first game, and then it turned out it was Google. So I think Google's behind this, actually, behind a few corners. But interesting to see them sort of maybe testing out Bitcoin. I really want to see Ben's game. I want to know what Ben's up to, because I remember him showing this like 6 months ago, and also working with his seed phrase Google Maps thing, where you could have like 3 words or 4 words, and it would pinpoint you down to the meter, and using that also to chuck some Satoshis around. And the cool thing is, what you really want is full Lightning Network integration. Ditch some coins around your business, and let them come to you. And Niantic
did grow out of Google and Google Maps, they had an earlier version of the Pokemon Go game that I remember Andreas talked about playing. It was very early. People were trying out GPS, and he had noted that a lot of the towers and main stations of Pokemon Go were carryovers from the previous interactive map-based game. So
Yeah,
it is
and
great
good.
to see them continue. That's the one.
Yeah.
And it was pushing the boundaries back then. And of course, everyone was saying, oh my gosh, the privacy and everyone's going to see where you are on the map. But then somehow Niantic got this incredible deal with Pokemon, seriously, like greatest IP in the world for this. And everyone instantly forgot all of those privacy things because you got to collect them all. And that's a higher thing than privacy, is collect them all is number one. Ben Ark, the inventor. I think you had this before with Bitcoin scavenger hunts, as Josh said, the 3 words. What do you think about Niantic and Fold taking it big time?
Well, it's one of the back burner projects, which I think we chatted about in the maybe in the after parties, and it's something which we need to sort our asses out and fix, because it's almost there. We're about 70% of the way there. So Satoshi Go was the idea. I mean, it's not been officially released or anything, and it really is on a back burner. But a lot of it's there. Like we have to basically have, like, I don't know if I should kind of announce this or not, because we haven't finished it, and I don't know when we'll finish it, but it's fucking cool. Basically, you have like an app on your phone, and it's like Pokemon Go, and you can scavenge hunt for Satoshis. But the Satoshis, so you go as a funder, you can go and you can select an area in a map, and you can pay a lightning invoice, and you can drop a whole bunch of Satoshis, and then people then can go to that area and then can collect the Satoshis, can run around and collect the Satoshis, and it's like Pokemon Go. And we put a lot of work into this. Like, it's a few of us who put a lot of work into this, and it just kind of got put on the back burner because we were doing other stuff, and it's still there, and we need to finish it. But it's a cool idea, like, because, you know, if you think about Pokemon, actually why they made a lot of their money was from being paid to put Pokemons in certain locations and drive traffic to certain locations. Well, you could do that if you were a business. You could just scatter a whole load of Satoshis just around your shop or whatever, or make, you know, a breadcrumb trail which people could follow to your shop. You could use it also. You also use it to sabotage things. So originally we were going to launch the idea at Bitcoin Miami, and there was a few speakers that I didn't really like, and I was thinking I might just like focus in on that area and then just drop like a few million Satoshis, and then watch everyone get up with their phones and start walking around collecting the Satoshis, and then ruin the person's talk at the conference. So you could use it for trolling as well. But
whatever you do, don't get on Ben's bad side. I tell you what, you're going to get Satoshi'd.
And you'll have all the kids running around. But I was thinking in my own little village, like if I threw a bunch of Satoshis around my village and the kids got their phones out and they could run around and they could collect the Satoshis, like that's a really good way to kind of get people to learn about Bitcoin. Like they have a balance of Satoshis and they can actually then use them like a wallet. You can then, you know, scan an invoice and then send them and pay for something else, like give them another experience as well. Be great for a conference like this. Throw a bunch of Satoshis around. That's one of those. This is a project we need to finish, and I feel like it's twat for not doing it because it's
hey, you know what's hot?
achievable.
Dogs are hot in crypto. You know, dogs are fucking hot in crypto. You could have dog walking, you know, dog walking while getting crypto and getting Satoshis.
Satoshi dog walkers.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
But
so
I
many
mean,
ideas.
the games. There's a bunch of game centric like Bitcoin companies here, and yeah, no, obviously, you know, Bitcoin in games is going to be wonderful. It's just this kind of two routes. It's like, do you build a game around Bitcoin, or do you build a cool game and then like integrate Bitcoin into it, or do you take a legacy? Well, it's 3 routes, I suppose. Take a legacy game and then kind of integrate Bitcoin into it. I don't know, like.
Well, the same thing, the same questions.
Story, which then would benefit from having Bitcoin. And I think the worst thing is what the worst approach is. You have a Bitcoin who's like, oh, I want to build a Bitcoin game. And then they build a game around Bitcoin. I think they're always crap. Like, you first should have a good game, and then somehow Bitcoin should be relevant for that game. But no, I think Satoshi, Bitcoin, but Pokemon Go for Satoshis, for collecting Satoshis, is like a bit of low-hanging fruit right there, you know?
Yeah.
But no one else can make it because we've almost finished. So there's no point, because we'll, like, you know, next month we'll roll out our finished game.
Well, the same questions were asked with VR. Like, do you make specific VR games, or do you just adapt games that are already there? At the end of the day, it always comes down to the best games in VR are the ones that decided to build a game for VR and actually focused on it. So I think
that's interesting. It's a good argument.
Yeah, I think the best way is like okay, let's think of the specifics, and NFTs work really well as well. If you think of Pokemon Go, you could have different characters, and the bigger they are and cooler, and you collect them.
I retract what I said before. I think the best Bitcoin game would be a game which is built around Bitcoin.
Yeah. Well,
but you know, that VR idea, because you're right. Like the best VR games, the ones which are like clearly built for VR.
Yeah.
So for me, one of the things that was really interesting about the announcement is, the timing of it. It came at almost exactly the same time that Niantic was announcing that on February 1st, they're winding down their Harry Potter game. And so them deciding that they're, going to invest and build a whole new game around, Bitcoin and Bitcoin rewards at the same time that they're deciding that Harry Potter isn't big enough. It's a pretty amazing statement about the things, that we're working on, the things that we're doing. I know John Lennon got in a lot of trouble when he said that the Beatles were bigger than Jesus, but I do take it as a step along the chain to the mass market that Bitcoin is now bigger than Harry Potter.
That's a major victory for Bitcoin. Dan Eve, your thoughts on the new Bitcoin Go?
I was never really into like Pokemon Go, but I like the idea of it sort of getting people out and out and about and active, rather than you see people playing on their phones and they're just they're in their own little world. Whereas at least this the AR side of it means that they're interacting in some way. I mean, obviously they're still using their phone, but they're kind of looking up a little bit more, and I think that's kind of constructive. It's getting people out of the house. It's getting people missioning around. It's good for businesses. Laying these breadcrumb trails, but to their businesses, and for nefarious people, like sending them off the edge of cliffs like lemmings if they get on the wrong side of Ben. But I think the other thing that's cool is that it's mixing two cool different things, which is like stacking sats and being active, being out and about and in the real world. So it's kind of the is it an oxymoron, but like where you've got like Bitcoiners are geeks that sit inside these small buildings and all they do is in these basements, and that's it, and they sit and tweak miners, or they just fiddle around on their Linux machines. However, this is like mixing it up, because now they're out in the real world interacting with ordinary humans and stacking sats. So whether that's a good thing or not, I don't know, but no, I think it's great. Stack sats, but get out and about and get people learning about Bitcoin as well. It's one thing people spending money to buy Bitcoin, right? And there's a lot of people, in the history of me trying to convince people to get Bitcoin, is I could never get them to buy like $5 worth of Bitcoin, but I could give it to them, and then that started the ball rolling. So if people get on these games and they're out, they can stack sats, and they immediately see the value go up and go down, and they get on that, they get literally in the seat of the roller coaster, and that's it. They stack a few sats and they're on the ride. So I think it's a really cool thing.
Exit question. I'm going to combine the last two questions together. So you don't have to give away your travel plans, but hypothetically, would you move to El Salvador's Bitcoin City? And once you're there, would you play Bitcoin Go? Martin Wismar.
I just moved to Portugal, so I'm not going to move again. It's all nice and well, and I also, to confess, I've looked at real estate in San Salvador. I mean, what does a condo in San Salvador cost? But it's a long way from Europe. So for me, if I would have been younger, possibly. I've always been a bit of the adventurous persons, and I didn't mind moving anywhere really. But right now, I'm happy in Portugal. There's no capital gains on crypto here either. There's no tax on trading Bitcoin as a person. There is as a company, but as a person, no. So in that respect, it's very much like the El Salvador of Europe. So I'm happy here.
Joshua Shigala.
Well, yeah, I'd play it. Yeah, why not? I always like these AI games. There was one game where there was like zombies chasing you, and you hear them, and you're like, oh, and you look at them, and you're running, and got you running. That was kind of cool. I'd definitely, but it would have to be by Ben Ark written underneath. It would have to
Ben
be that.
Ark, would you play it? Would you move there?
I'd move to San Salvador and I'd play Satoshi Go, and I'd let all the Bitcoin City, Bitcoin Go people carry on with their thing. I'd move to San Salvador with the real El Salvadorians, and all those rich Bitcoin gringos.
Who wants to live so close to a volcano now, really? Justin Newton, would you play it? Would you move there?
Probably wouldn't move there. Might open an office there. I will almost certainly play the game. I mean, it's at least worth trying out, assuming it's available in my country.
Dan Eve, will you be playing the game?
Well, I'm right now. I'm looking at condos in San Salvador. Now, I did actually mention it to my girlfriend earlier about after talking about the Bitcoin city, and I think I've got I'm putting the groundwork in. So I think it's a possibility. And some of these condos are amazing for the same price of my house. They're absolutely mint. So I would be well up for moving to Bitcoin City, and I'd be pumping out the stats on the Satoshi Go, powered by LN Bits and Ben.
I'd definitely try out the Bitcoin Go game. I'd probably play for a couple weeks and then quit. I played the Pokemon game for a while. It was more fun in San Francisco, more cool stuff to go to. But you did have to watch out if you go to the wrong neighborhood to get the right Pokemon. I'm not so sure about Bitcoin City. Maybe if it was like Surf City, where it's like 2 girls for every guy. I'm not sure though. It seems like a big
Bitcoin
move.
City seems like it might be the opposite.
See, and that's all wrong. That's all wrong if you want me to move there. Moving on to issue 5. Odell Beckham Jr.'s salary is going to be in Bitcoin. Odell Beckham Jr. has dumped the Cleveland Browns and he's moving to the Los Angeles Rams, where he has requested his salary in Bitcoin. Although it does seem to be like a tie-in and an advertisement for the Cash App, it is a step forward towards football players and baseball players, professional sports athletes of all types, taking their money in Bitcoin. Josh Segala, more mainstream Bitcoin adoption or just continuation of a trend?
For sure. The more and more people accept crypto, Bitcoin, ETH, stable coins, all this stuff. I'm noticing massive waves of it everywhere. It used to be where I'd be like, hey, can I pay you back in Bitcoin? And they'd be like, oh, wouldn't mind cash, like fools. And I'd be like, you sure? I'd give the second, like, are you sure? Like, I'm the one losing on this deal. You realize that? Oh, sorry, I'm so loud always. I'm sorry. I'm 6'8", guys. I can't help it. I've got big lungs. Anyway, now it's like, hey, you want to be paid in crypto? And it's like, oh yeah, damn it. All right, not send my crypto. But the good thing is nowadays you can lock up crypto and borrow against yourself, so you don't even need to sell it, which is pretty cool. So yeah, I definitely, Matt. Like the more the merrier. Let's go.
If only the Rams had listened to this show, they could have stacked Bitcoin years ago and been able to include to afford better players now. They'd be in a great position. Ben Ark, the footballer takes Bitcoin. Beginning of a trend?
I mean, like Okung followed me. I didn't know who he was because he's like an American footballer. And then he DM'd me. And this was before Bitcoin Miami. And he was like, yo, you're in Miami? And I was like, who are you, dude? And I was like, yeah, no, not, I'm not going because of all the COVID restrictions. And then I realized who he was. And I was like, oh my God. But that guy, like some of his tweets, I'm amazed how someone could be so athletically brilliant and then also intellectually brilliant as well. So hopefully, more of them. I suppose while they're training, they've got lots of time to like listen and learn and be educated. And And yeah, so if they're informed and if they're, if they know what they're doing with Bitcoin and they understand the value proposition of Bitcoin, then I'm all for it. And I think really Okung pioneered the big athlete accepting Bitcoin as payment.
Justin Newton, your thoughts on footballers and Bitcoin?
Yeah, I mean, I think it makes a lot of sense, right? Like if the money that you have is money that you need to spend, tomorrow to feed your family or next week or next month, then maybe putting all of it into Bitcoin isn't the best idea, because days like today happen where, you wake up in the morning and things are way down. And, if you were depending on that to feed someone, it wouldn't be great. But, I think what we've seen in the industry up until now is if you have a longer time horizon, and you're not worried about the money that you need to feed your family tomorrow, but are instead thinking about the wealth that you're going to have 2 years from now, then frequently having that money sitting in Bitcoin rather than having it sit in USD might be the right choice.
In many ways, I think it's so much safer than the traditional financial advisor route that many of these players go through. But in many ways, I'm horrified, and I think it's much less safe. If somebody ran off with Billy Joel's money, imagine what they're going to do to some poor footballer. And again, they can fit it all in one suitcase. They can fit it all in one private key, one piece of paper, one notebook. So I hope for the best, but I always worry just a little bit. If you don't pay attention to things, then things come back and bite you. But I already said that Nader quote. Dan, Eve, your thoughts, even though it's an American footballer, not a soccer player?
I think anyone who's publicly getting their pay in Bitcoin, I think is a really good thing. Hey Theo, on the CoinFest with Ben. So I think for anyone getting their salary in Bitcoin, it's a public thing, right? It's showing that people actually have money and they can they can use it as money. I think kind of like what Justin pointed out, that it's better for people that have a lot of money, right? That it doesn't really matter if it drops 20% in a couple of weeks, because it doesn't mean they're not going to be able to pay their mortgage. For someone who's living week to week, it's a lot more of a difficult decision, and there's a lot more risk involved, right? You almost need like a pretty reasonable buffer in order to be able to make that decision. So it's kind of sad in a way that you'll see more of the rich people like dropping their fiat for Bitcoin, but also good as well because it's positive market pressure, right? It's businesses that now have to go out and buy the Bitcoin in order to pay their staff. So ultimately, it's good all round for the Bitcoin ecosystem.
You're right, Dan. It was like when Elon Musk was bragging about never selling any of his Bitcoin. And I was like, yeah, man, but you're crazy rich. You don't have to worry about paying rent and things that normal people have. Like it matters a lot for a normal person if it goes down 30% or 50%. That's a painful thing. Martin Wishmayer, your thoughts on the American footballer?
I totally agree with Justin and then here, if you have a lot of disposable income, you're either going to buy bonds or stocks and put it in there and have it managed by some money manager or funds manager. Instead, you can just, it's better to just own your own private keys and just make sure you stash some away for the future. If you need the money, it's definitely not a good idea to put everything in Bitcoin. But those athletes, they make a lot of money. They're not going to spend it all, or they're going to spend it on silly things. But so it makes sense to save a little bit for the future, because their careers are usually quite short, because they get at one point they can't play the games anymore because of the health or injuries. So it's good. It's a good decision for the future. If you have got a longer time preference, like 5 years or so, you can live from halving to halving. So definitely recommend it. But as I found out myself, between 2010 and 2015, my only income was in Bitcoin. So that was like a very different story, you know. You pay your coffees in Bitcoin and your pizza in Bitcoin, only to find out that 5 years later that was like a small car, you know. So it's but as an athlete or basically for anyone, if you put like 5% of your savings portfolio, you put it in Bitcoin, that's very conservative, and it will turn into a nice profit by the time you want to retire. So yeah, totally recommend it.
It's never too late for Taylor Swift to buy Bitcoins or stack sats, as they say now. Maybe she could even buy her original masters back if she had enough cryptocurrency. We're running out of time, so we're going to cut the exit questions. We're moving on to issue 5, cryptocurrency. Should Bitcoin mining be curbed in Europe? Swedish authorities say yes. They're worried about electricity again. They're worried about Bitcoin mining. I've been listening to Howard Stern all week. He has Greta Thunberg impersonator on there all the time, and she's always screaming about everything that you do. Will Europe become the next screamer about Bitcoin mining? Let's see. Justin, where'd Ben go? Ben, Ark, your thoughts on Europe, Bitcoin mining, and Greta screaming about using too much energy?
Well, I mean, I personally love Greta. I think she's a prophet of our age, but whatever. Yeah, Bitcoin, it does consume currently, if you use just a transaction for sending value from one person to another, it's a large carbon footprint. Maybe you need that carbon footprint because that transaction is really important to you. But you can do a lot more with a transaction. Now we have Lightning Network and we've had our Taproot activation. So that'll take a while to kick in, but we can pack a lot more data and information into a transaction. And actually then a transaction becomes very economically feasible and its carbon footprint is very, very light if you consider the amount of information and transaction throughput and scripting and whatever else we can pack into a transaction. But yeah, that I don't think that narrative has gone away, the Bitcoin's carbon footprint, and it shouldn't, because, you know, when it kind of, you know, the old Elon stuff kicked off, there was some good which came from it. There was some investment in exploring, you know, using renewables for mining Bitcoin and maybe trying to offset, you know, your carbon footprint on transactions and things. So yeah, whatever, go on, Sweden, like carry on. You know, keep bringing this up as an issue, and then we'll tackle it and we'll make Bitcoin more efficient and we'll get more out of a transaction. So, and with all that, you know, Nick Zovo style social scalability stuff, when you think about the amount of energy which is consumed in all these institutions, which Bitcoin transactions can eventually replace, then it becomes very economical and actually quite a green utility for people to use. But yeah, no, it's a narrative which is going to continue. But yeah.
I like Greta too, but she does remind me a little bit of the 1976 movie Network, where she's just an angry prophet denouncing the hypocrisies of our times.
Wonderful about it. Like if you looked at COP20, I was at COP26 marching, and you have all these politicians flying in on their private jets and then doing all these speeches. And I think everyone was watching those speeches thinking blah, blah, blah. And then Greta, she stood up there and she did it. She coined the phrase like blah, blah. And it was blah, blah, blah. You know, just politicians doing what politicians do. They don't mean a word of it. And billionaires and whoever else doing the same thing. So it's good that this weird teenager is suddenly holding the world to account on the issue of, you know, our destruction of the planet. So, yeah.
Well, suppose I want to be an angry prophet denouncing the hypocrisies of our times. Justin Newton, your thoughts on Bitcoin, the environment, and a potential mining ban in Europe?
Yeah, I mean, so look, for me, I think the environmental mix of grids is something that countries need to take on holistically and not try and blame one user of the grid or another. And say, you know, Bitcoin is evil for using power. Everyone uses power. So if our power mix needs to be cleaner, let's make our power mix cleaner for everybody rather than try and villainize one user. You know, what I would say we do need to be careful of on the other side of with some of the mining and crypto stuff is, though, you know, we do show up in some places and suddenly create like massive density in terms of power usage. And if that causes issues around price spikes or reliability in local grids as a result of high consumption from Bitcoin mining, that's the kind of thing that can actually lead to a strong local backlash and, bans, right? And so it's actually something that's been interesting to me to watch over the last year, kind of the combined messages coming out of Texas of like, we want more Bitcoin mining, but we also have grid failures that happen from time to time, right? Like, I'm wondering where the political tension on those two issues rubbing up against each other is going to show up, and what that's going to mean in terms of access to power for certain use cases going forward. To me, that's something that is probably more important long-term for us to focus on, is making sure that we're being, responsible to the other users of the grid and the neighbors that we're working with, that we're not causing problems for others around us in a way that's going to cause political backlash, bans, and other things. And, the overall mix of cleanliness of power in the grid, that should be the grid's problem. That shouldn't be Bitcoin's problem.
It is interesting that no one's up in arms over always-on devices like PlayStation 4s or Christmas lights, which are very wasteful. Most of Europe seems focused on making Apple use USB-C, and they're just going to outfox them. They'll take the port off the thing. Joshua Shigala, your thoughts on the important movement in Europe to ban cryptocurrency mining? Very forward-thinking.
Very forward-thinking. Justin's spot on. Everyone's spot on in this panel, on this great, fantastic panel. I mean, exactly. Are they going to ban the PlayStations? Are they going to ban the PlayStations? Come on, ban them. All those gamers not playing. It's ridiculous. It's a ridiculous notion, and this is typical of government stuff where they're like this knee jerk. It's like someone just banged their little knee and they went, ban it all. Like they don't even think twice. They go, ban it. And then how are you going to ban it? At the end of the day, you know what ban is? Ban is someone with a big gun coming and threatening you for what? For calculating some hashes. Just stop it. But I think this is actually where, I'm going to say it. Proof of stake might be interesting because the thing is that when you ban mining like China did, there's a lot of proof of stake coins that have just going off over there being mined because they can't tell the data packets from anything else if they're encrypted, and so it's and you can't shut it down. Like massive, you can like this is a centralizing factor of like, hey, there's a house there using more power than the weed growers by like a tenfold. Shut it down, would you? Like, it's not too hard to bust them if it's made illegal. So it is a weak point in proof of work, I see. Of course, globally not, because the hash power just goes somewhere more friendly. So yeah, but that's also then centralizing if like, because of these super states like Europe, and I see these super states, they will form more and more. Like you see they're trying to build a super state down in Asia as well, and to have the union of Asian countries, and they then make top-down decisions, and then Europe makes top-down decisions, and then it can be quite dangerous because these people don't know what they're doing, and it's just that's what I have to say about that. It's a weird one. Like, it's typical government. This is why I just don't like more state power, because they're just fools.
I just think we can get along with the gamers. Sure, you want an international censorship-free non-government currency program. They just want to download their updates without having to wait for them overnight. Like, we're so close, right? And then those other people, they want twinkly lights in their neighborhood. So we're kind of far apart on that one. Martine Wismayer, your thoughts on Europe banning Bitcoin mining but allowing PlayStations and Christmas lights? No problem.
Yeah, I got a little bit sick when Josh mentioned this proof of stake thing might be a good solution. I totally disagree on that. We've had this discussion before. I think proof of stake it's basically moving power to the exchanges, and they're not in the user's best interest. And it's great for the exchanges, but not for the end user.
That's very true. Very, very true.
So proof of work is the only real way. And if Sweden calls it waste of energy, I don't think it's a waste of energy. It gives us like the hardest currency in the world. So it's definitely well spent. I totally agree with those PlayStations. They should be banned. I mean, really, playing games. I mean, really, what are you doing with your future? And sorry, Ben, but Greta is she really annoys me. I'm not a tree-hugging hippie. I care about the environment, but come on, this is just pushing it. So no, just let us mine. We have data centers that are wasting a lot of electricity. I mean, Google is boiling the oceans as we speak. I mean, that's not a waste either. I think we should just be allowed to, if we pay for the electricity, we should be allowed to use the electricity. And if, that's a good thing about Bitcoin. If it's banned somewhere, it will just go somewhere else, unless it's all the super states like Josh mentioned that they will take over the entire planet and will do force their rules on everyone. This is why as I said before, politics is for puppets. So I'm not like going into there, but we just want to mine our Bitcoins. Just leave us alone and let us mine our Bitcoins.
Unfortunately, the Asian superstate that Josh is talking about, ASEAN, has failed and been pulled back. The only superstate in the Asian region is CHINA, and they are very super. Dan, Eve, your thoughts about Bitcoin mining being banned in Europe?
Yeah, so it's another attack on Bitcoin because it does use a lot of energy, and they've got like sound bites in the article, like what was it? It's currently possible to drive a mid-size electric car 1.8 million kilometers using the same energy it takes to mine one single Bitcoin. These are just ridiculous sound bites, and the fact is it's ganging up on one particular thing. I think Justin hit the nail on the head there. Like you're picking on one specific set of users, and there's obviously this PlayStation, there's the Christmas tree lights, there's office lights, right? Something that's always bugged me about this idea that we should be saving energy. Why do you go past an office and like no one's in the office but all the lights are on? Like there's still loads of them. There's department stores, you still see them all over the place. So to say that Bitcoin mining is bad, one of them is it has no use whatsoever. One of them is like lighting an environment where no one needs to see anything, and one of them is mining hard money. Like it's got an actual usage. That's the reason why they're doing it. Now, what's crazy about this argument is that if they're saying Bitcoin mining is bad because the dams don't have enough power, and so so everyone's power's cutting out, like that's a different story. But Bitcoin mining doesn't cut anyone else's power out. It just uses energy like anything else does. It's using energy doing something that they don't particularly like for whatever ridiculous reason it is. Like, if you disagree with like people like, oh, the lights at the theater, they're a big waste of money. I know it's other people's entertainment, but it's a waste of money to me. One person's trash is another person's treasure. So do we have to, if we cut out Bitcoin, even though it's got an actual use case and it's doing something that's really constructive, then why don't we sit there and analyze all the different areas of anything that uses energy and say, right, okay, give it some sort of scoring and say, well, we're not going to use that either. We're going to ban that as well. We're no longer having Xboxes, PlayStations, because that uses electricity, and that's also bad. But they don't do that. They pick on something that they don't really understand. Everyone's always afraid of something they don't understand, and therefore they pick on Bitcoin. But
no, they pick on it because it undermines them. It undermines them. Tesla, I have this nice fat Tesla sucking juice every day from the network. Well, they're going to ban Tesla? Like, no, they're going to say, oh, we need more electric cars. We're going to ban petrol because, and then, Greta's going to get up there going, and then everyone's and just blah, blah, blah. It's just nonsensical crap. It's like sitting down to take your mask off instead of walking in it just no logic at all.
They're missing the obvious thing, which is that if it ever did come to the point where it's going to impact on on the actual electricity supply for houses and whatever, then then it's an actual problem. But until then, they're just realizing that there's going to be a need for more renewables. So it is driving more renewable investment. And forget about it anyway. In 10 years, the tokamak is already they've already pretty much reaching nuclear fusion. So 10, 20 years and all of our energy problems will be solved. There'll be 30 years and they'll be starting that Dyson sphere and shit around the sun. So yeah, we need the energy thing's it's a ridiculous argument. Just need to push it aside and forget about it. Blah 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 blah.
By the way, Martin. By the way, Martin. I just want to correct. I didn't say that proof of stake is better. I just said that when they ban proof of work, people go to proof of stake. So if they're doing this to control crypto, it's not going to work because people will just use. If you think it's a more inferior product, it doesn't matter. They still will just end up using. The market will use that.
It's interesting. Their argument. Go ahead, Martin.
No, I think you said proof of stake was better because I know sometimes you're a bit of an Ethereum fanboy here, and you just wanted to push your hidden agenda again. It's just,
right,
we'll have to rewind this later.
Yeah, commenters, check the tape, put a timestamp in the comments. We'll see what happens. The other problem with their argument, it also has a bit of the old taking it out on the young. I don't understand your rock and roll and your video games and your Bitcoin, and I think we should stop doing what you like, but keep doing all the things that I like. And I know you guys haven't heard it, but you'd love to hear Greta on Stern. She won't let him talk about anything else. He talks about entertainment news or the award show or some kind of goofy thing. And she's like, blah, blah, blah.
Blah, blah, blah,
blah. She gets
blah.
mad. She gets mad at him every time. Blah, blah, blah. And then he kind of hangs up on her and she goes back in the basement. But Ben's right. She is striking out for a good cause. It does matter quite a lot to her generation what our generation and other generations do with our electrical power and the choices we make.
Man, she's such a controlled. There's people puppeting. She's a muppet. The poor little kid. She gets picked on by the right so hard. She's just a kid, And then the left eye, oh, she's a man. No, she's a puppet being pulled by the strings of someone else.
Well, pretty soon we're all going to be pulled by the strings of climate change, and countries like Tuvalu and cities like Venice will disappear from the map, Lower Florida, Manhattan, other places like this. So we still have a chance, maybe, I don't know. But that's an issue for another show. And we're almost out of time. We're moving on to, I think, issue 6, maybe 7. Almost buying a constitution is easy, but giving the money back is hard. This is one of my favorite stories recently. A group called Constitution DAO raised around $49.8 million. What was great about it, a little inside baseball, they raised the money publicly, and they said publicly something like, we have $42 million for which to buy this ancient and wonderful copy of the Constitution that, of course, belongs in a museum. And there's this trader guy, and I forget his name, sorry guy, but he made lots of money on Reddit stocks and AMC and all that stuff. And he rolled in with, I don't know, 42.1 million, 42 million and $1. He bid right on top of them. He took home the Constitution. They hate him anyway, and he laughed in their face. But that wasn't the end of the funny part for Constitution DAO. Now it looks like because of the high fees on Ethereum, it's going to cost them millions of dollars to refund everyone's money. No one is sure if they're going to be successful at giving back all this money that would have gone to buy the Constitution. No one would have gotten a stake in this Constitution. No one would have gotten a little square in the mail. Nothing like that. They just donated because they thought it would be funny. And this other guy thought it would be funnier to steal it from them.
They could twist it around. They could make a smart contract that allows the people to claim their money back.
They could, but they didn't. And they could have made it where they all owned a piece of the Constitution, but they didn't. They just were going to give up their money for nothing because of the publicity. Josh, do you think they succeeded? They got the publicity. Do you think they'll be successful in returning the funds?
It's fairly easy. You make a contract and you allow people to claim their funds back, and they have to pay the gas fees for that claim. This sounds typical, like these sort of ape-in projects where people just ape into nonsense. It doesn't even make sense to buy the Constitution. What the heck? And this whole play space is built with, it's either got a picture of a dog on it, or it's some ridiculous, like, over the top thing that doesn't make any sense, and people still jump in, like. And then I see really good projects, well thought out ones that haven't got massive marketing budgets, and they don't go anywhere, or they get like a large investor coming in right in the beginning, and then the large investor rug pulls on everyone else by just dumping on everyone else, which is also horrible. I think, but this is the early beginnings of this way of. I still like the way of fundraising using ICOs. I think they're a really good function. It gets away. Like, I spent literally 2 years of my life trying to go from VC to VC, and they're so ridiculous. These people, they walk around with their noses in the air, even though they're just living off family offices' money, and then and they're just like retail investors. They're not the smart money at all. When Bitcoin was going down, they're like, it's over. Nah, Bitcoin was a fad. Right? And you're like, hey, really? Are you sure? Because it's like, yeah, it might be $30 now, but it'll be back at 3,000 or whatever. And then, now they're getting a little bit smarter, but I think these initial coin offerings are a really good mechanism, because they allow people to invest in things. The thing is, the people are so stupid and they get scammed. But I'm hoping that it'll take a few years, but maybe they will burn their fingers and go, oh, okay, let's figure out how you actually invest. Let's figure out, because the state has spent so long really de-risking everybody's lives for them that they don't even know what a risk looks like anymore. And so they need to learn, what does a risk look like? What does due diligence even mean? What is that word? Maybe I should look past the dog picture on a coin and actually look at, the team, the concept, this, that, and the other thing. And I see this literally happening. I've seen this with friends who have no, I bought this dog. I should have lost everything. And then now they're like, and they're asking very sophisticated questions that I would never have thought they would have, because they've already burned their hands on some shitcoin. So I think it's an evolution of the space. I think it needs to happen. Of course, Constitution DAO, there'll always be some con artists that will try to do something better. I mean, they say it was a marketing ploy, but man, come on, there's better ways to market. Throw some banners up in Times Square or something.
Well, we've done some due diligence, and it says that the reason they did it was for the lulz. And also, if they had done any research at all, we all know the movie National Secrets. The treasure map is on the back of the Declaration of Independence. Yes, the Declaration, not the Constitution. Martin Wismayer, were you all in on Constitution DAO, creating many sub-DAOs and owning all of the pieces of the Constitution?
No, Thomas, I was really not interested. What I read, by the way, Josh said you can easily make a contract that will refund people their money. But in this case, there were lots of small-time donations made, or donations. I call it donations because they're probably not getting anything back. And so if you invest like $50, and then you spend $50 on gas fees on the Ethereum networks, and then how are you going to get a refund? Because you'll have to pay for those gas fees again. So your $50 investment needs $50 of gas fees to be returned. So there's no way you're ever going to get your part of the Constitution investment back. But I think for many, it will be a way to learn that, think twice before you spend your sats, your ether. And yeah, just don't buy all this crazy shit out there. Just get some sats, really, or I don't know, some sushi swap or whatever, some crazy stuff. But don't just throw away your money. I think these people. I feel sorry for them because but I don't think anyone put their life savings in there. And if they did, they can get some money back. But yes, the gas fees are like crazy on the Ethereum network nowadays. So, keep that in mind when you're spending or when you have to invoke some smart contract, because sometimes the gas fees are just more than whatever you're going to get back. So yeah, no cheese for you.
I think sats on Ethereum are called Vitalics. And it is unfortunate they didn't seem to get anything. At least with Dogecoin, you know that each coin has a picture of a dog on it. And as Aerosmith said, if you do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always got. Could that be nothing? Dan, Eve, your thoughts on the noble but failed effort to buy a copy of the Constitution for some reason?
I think I read that the dude that bought it, he literally paid 1 cent more because he already knew what the maximum amount of in the DAO was. So it was kind of flawed right from the start. They really imagine like 1 cent, in it. But even if they'd have put like $10 more, the guy would have put 1 cent more than that, right? It's like how to count past infinity, But the fact is that. It kind of, it sounds like a good thing that people can club together and put all their money in and buy something, and own a piece of something. And it sounds like a cool thing. But like, as we're saying now, if it fails, you've got the fees. And there was in the article, there's like someone put in paid $200 and it was $75 for the transaction in, and it's going to be about $75 for the transaction out. Like even at the moment, a normal Ethereum transaction, like just to send ether is like $10. To send a token is $30. Then smart contract interactions like Uniswap, that's like $90. So like really people buy these small amounts of shit coins or shit tokens, but then they can't even move them anywhere. That's the kind of the downside I think at the moment with Ethereum. Obviously there's Taproot is going to open up the possibilities for smart contracts on Bitcoin, so that would be really interesting to see I suppose if the token sort of craze kicks off on Bitcoin as it did on Ethereum and all these other different chains, and maybe things like there was one I read about today actually that was quite interesting. So if ZK Sync, which is layer 2 on Ethereum, which does sound quite interesting. So it's like it's just a settlement layer. But obviously, Ethereum main chain at the moment is basically a rich person's chain, right? You've been costing $10 to send Ethereum. It still costs what, like $2 to send Bitcoin now. So harsh beans on the Constitution, and it's a shame that everyone's going to get stitched up getting their money back, especially the small contributors. They might even never get their money back because the amount that it's going to cost them to actually retrieve the funds that they put in is the gas fee is going to be more than what they put in. So harsh beans, and it's a sign for anyone else wanting to own a piece of something. Think about the refund structure if it doesn't work out, because you may get stung on the exit.
Of course, it would be absolutely tragic if their return was 3/5. Let's go to Justin Newton. Your thoughts on buying the Constitution?
Well, I mean, to be fair, in this case, the people put their money in expecting or being informed that they would be getting nothing in return for having put their money in. And congratulations, success. They have gotten nothing in return for having put their money in. So, I mean, it's, maybe not exactly the outcome that they'd hoped for, but it was the promised outcome in this specific case. So I think, I guess I say that a little tongue in cheek just to say, in this case, probably the harm wasn't that great, given that the people didn't expect to really get value at the end of it, other than knowing that they had been a part of something. And so, one, they were a part of something. It wasn't exactly what they expected to be a part of, but it's certainly still a unique once in a lifetime experience. And on the other side, there wasn't a financial gain they anticipated that they were somehow locked out of. So like not getting the money back doesn't make them less whole in the way it would have if it was another kind of investment where, say, they were expecting to get a percentage of the value of the Constitution after the purchase in case it was resold, or some other thing where there was an expected financial return where it just then became nothing and they didn't get their money back. So I guess that's just an overly long way of saying this was probably the least painful way for the industry to learn this lesson. And hopefully it is something we think about with future projects.
Ben Ark, I've got a copy of the Magna Carta to sell you. Of course, the Magna Carta was never written down.
So what was the original question again? Sorry.
What do you think about the Constitution DAO and their failed attempt to buy a copy of the Constitution? And now they're having lots of trouble refunding the money. So,
right, well, yes, it's destined to fail, isn't it? I mean, I don't know enough on the topic to really comment on it, but yeah, no, I agree with what Justin said.
Very good, very good. Safety within the panel. Now we're moving on to predictions or story of the week. Martine, are you ready with a prediction or a story of the week? Go ahead.
Well, that's easy this week. Ben, as we all our regular viewers know, Ben created LN Bits some time ago, and he succeeded in getting his LN URL point of sale listed on the AliExpress. So if you're on AliExpress, instead of getting all this cheap Chinese shit, just look for LN URL POS. And you can see that LilyGo has like a TTGO display and keyboard. And if you're feeling a little bit adventurous, you got your Umbrella node, you got it all synced up, you got your LN bit started, and use this kit, get it. It's just what, $20, including a little bit of shipping, and get it. And it's a nice project. You can create your own Bitcoin Lightning point of sale network that syncs with your own hardware, syncs to your own node using Umbrella, Lightning, everything. So this is definitely, that was like my story. It's not my story of the week, but I think it definitely deserves some attention because it's really cool. You can see the number of sales it has. There's already 31 sold there, and the other one has a bunch of them sold. So the sales are picking up. I do think Ben should have really turn it into like a business thing, but being the free open source software guy he is, it's his gift to the community. So definitely give it a go. If you haven't got any idea what to put under that Christmas tree this year, just order a bunch of them, make them for friends, program your ESP and give them away to friends and start this Bitcoin point of sale adoption, because it's really cool project and it's really heads off.
I think what's really exciting about it is like LilyGo, they're like a big microcontroller manufacturing company in Shenzhen, and they've made like the LNUR POS, and then they've seen how well it's been received in the Bitcoin community. But then they're like, okay, this is a big market, which we should be building products specifically for the Bitcoin community as well. So I think it's just like onboarded like a whole, manufacturing fabrication company in Shenzhen. And then hopefully others will follow suit, because we were a huge industry of makers and hackers and people who want to build their own things. And it's nice to have some recognition from like a larger manufacturer in China. It's got a nice price point. They did a really good job of like not making it too expensive. What's cool as well about it is like when they emailed me about it, I was like, yeah, can you also include an SD card? Because that same device would make a really nice hardware wallet, like an off-the-shelf hardware wallet. So I'm looking forward to like maybe like working with some of the Spectre guys or something, like and trying to build like a hardware wallet with it, and that'd be super exciting. But no, it is really good. Yeah, it's really exciting stuff. Thank you for mentioning it, Martin. And I've been in CoinFest today, doing workshops, building the LNUR POS. It takes like 5 minutes to set one of these things up, and it'd be a really nice potential business for, say, some kid in El Salvador. You can just spin up a Lightning node, run LN bits on it, which is open source software, make a bunch of these LNUR POSs, take them to shops and cafes and whatever else, give them to them, and then because they're using his LN bits, he could then, because in LN bits you get in the back end, you can set a transaction fee. He could then just make up the cost of the hardware via these transaction fees, and then it's like a really easy way for people to spin up like a little business. The next thing as well, which is for the project, which I think is really interesting, is because with the LNUR POS, you get like a decrypted PIN, which is first set on the device itself as a proof of payment. It would also make a really nice vending machine solution. So, you have a little vending machine, you select the product you want, you make a payment, you get a PIN, you input the PIN, and then it spits out the product which you paid for. And that's done in offline, like it's a completely offline vending machine, just like the point of sale. So it's a really exciting project. A big shout out to Oriel. One of the hackers who's been working came to El Salvador.
Well, just to interrupt you just for a second, Ben. Justin has to leave. Justin, thanks so much for being us with Netkey. Maybe tell the people a little bit about Netkey. You have to go to your next meeting. Thank you, Justin.
Yeah, no worries. I got to jump off. So thanks, everybody. Have a great day. It was great to be here today.
Thank you, Justin. Bye.
Take care, Justin. Bye-bye. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
And everyone check out Netkey. They used to do like Bitcoin wallet shortcuts, kind of like that Ethereum name service. But now I'm told they're doing... what's it? KYC. KYC.
It's not net. It's Netkey, but NETKI, not KEY. It's NAETKI, because otherwise it's a different company.
And check out Justin's company if you need any KYC services. I know Martine in the ATM, they do that. Maybe Josh and some other people. So everybody check them out. Give them a shot. Thanks to Justin for being on the show. Sorry, Ben, go ahead. You were talking about a programmer contributing.
Oh yeah, no, Oriel, he's made like a software version, so you could take like an old Android device, and then you can also have like LNUR POS, like Lightning, one of these offline point of sale things on it. But also, the exciting thing about what he's done is he's made it also like an offline meat bag ATM. So if you're a shop in El Salvador, someone could come in and they could give you $10, and then you could just put in a PIN, put in the amount, and then the device make a withdrawal link. Oh man. Oh.
Well, Ben's
what
gone
just happened there?
He's gone sideways. He probably ran out of batteries, but shout out to CoinFest in Manchester. I hope everyone's having a great time in the UK. Joshua Shigala, a prediction or a story of the week? Go ahead.
Yeah, we're doing a giveaway at thestandard.io, and we've been doing it for like 5 weeks. We gave a bunch of merch. We gave some Apple gear, Apple watches and iPads. We gave 4 iPads away. We gave 3 MacBook Airs, and 2 MacBooks, something like that. No, 1 MacBook Pro. I don't know. Go check it out on the standard IO. We're giving away. But the reason why we're giving away a whole bunch of Mac stuff is it's really easy to buy globally and ship locally, so that makes it easy as a prize. But yeah, join. Just go there and put your email in, and ready to win some prizes. Really fun crew, and join our Discord. The links are also there on the standard. It's really it's starting to come together. I'm really liking Discord. We were on Telegram for ages, and it was just horrible. I hated it. Just constant messages of fluff, nonsense. And on Discord, everything's nice and organized, and you have real, actual conversations with people that are uninterrupted and nicely threaded, and it's just much better. And I love it so much better. I don't know why everyone uses Telegram, to be honest.
Well, that's some very cool stuff you're giving out there, Josh. I'm doing this on a MacBook Air right now with the new M1 chip. They're fantastic. So check out thestandard.io for your chance to win. Dan, Eve, I get the feeling that you're supposed to be rapping today at CoinFest, but I also feel you're not there. Dan, what's going on? You have a prediction or a story of the week?
I have a story of a week and a prediction because I'm greedy. And so my story of the week is that unfortunately my son has COVID, but he's all good. He's all good. He's just been a bit stroppy and his temperature's gone. But my prediction is that the universe will prevail because I've made it to every CoinFest that's been on since 2017, and I'll have my PCR test back tomorrow, and it will mean that I can get the 5-hour, 6-hour train up to Manchester by the time I'm meant to be singing / rapping comically, satirically, not seriously, just to caveat that, for like 9:30 or something, which is after I think it's some form of Bitcoin, so a Bitcoin trailer of a documentary. So in theory, the universe will give me strength, and I won't have COVID, and I will be able to holler tomorrow night and at least get some of the conference in. because I'm, it's very sad that I'm not there.
Yeah, it's very sad. But you know what? You could do a rap right here. Right. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
What now?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, do it.
No,
do it.
Do it.
Okay. I'll do the noddle one because if but oh god, I'm not even remember it, so forgive me. Excuse me, Pete. So I don't want to cause alarm, but you're missing monetary liberty in your palm. Bitcoin likely full nodes on an arm. Support the network. Run a node, not a farm. I've got a noddle black box direct from Noddle it. So there's only 21, and I'm going to hodl it. Plug and play setup. Anyone can doddle it. On arrival tweet unboxing, I might even model it. Not just a node of BTC pay server, Bitcoin payment processing, and a networking observer, upgradable, expandable, trusted preserver, be a pillar for the network. Once you feed your Bitcoin further, I got one of 21 right before it hit the blocks. Get involved and run a node and start verifying blocks, and not just miners, stop attackers. Nodes also help out Fox, and the hodl is a doddle within Noddle it black box. Bitcoin core no alts allowed, not just yet. Too technical, try Noddle Cloud. You'll also get financial self-sovereignty. The banks you can forget. Before I go, please check the video on @WorldCryptoNet.
Wow.
Very good.
Nice.
Very good. Thanks, Dan. And thanks to everybody for watching at home, giving us a thumbs up, joining us on this day after Thanksgiving. And we hope we had both sides of the political issues here and you can think about it. And I hope everybody just stays safe and avoids the new variant and all the other stuff going on out there. So thumbs up, subscribe down below. You can put a comment in later on if you want. I do read those. I come back later. There's a couple. And then there's the advertisements and the commercial stuff. We try to delete those. But thanks so much for joining us. Thanks to Justin and Ben for joining us. And until next time,
Bye.
Bye.